Welcome to Crypt I've Been Thinking. What's this show all about? Well, it's all in the title. He enjoys interviewing people about issues that he finds interesting and which cause him to sit back and think. Cryptocurrency, true crime, natural law, the occult. No topic is off limits here. He has always enjoyed when people give their points of view or thoughts on different topics that they have researched. And what makes it all great is that it's their unique take on what is being discussed. For that reason alone, it makes it interesting to him. So take that walk down to his crypt. Make yourself comfortable. And just maybe he will be discussing a topic that you have been thinking about. Here's your host, Crypt Rick.
Well, welcome everybody. I'm so glad to be here once again, another Monday evening, and it's actually been a beautiful day here today. I have to say it's actually getting warmer again, so hopefully the spring is on its way because I have had enough of the winter. So it was actually a great day today, and so I'm happy. It's a warm day. I think winter's finally starting to let up, so that's a great thing, in my opinion. But before I get started and get my guest on that, I always like to say that to remind everybody that it is listener-supported here. You guys all know that. You guys are what makes this all work and helps keep freedom alive. It is through your donations that keep this station up and running, and the fight for freedom and truth. That is so important right now because, as I keep saying and reminding people, we are losing it all the time. Every day we're losing it a little more. And, you know, I'm here for the fight. I mean, I'm here to fight for truth. I'm here to fight for freedom, and it's got to be done. And I mean, anytime you can support a station or anyone that is fighting for that is so important. And you can do it many different ways. We got, you can go through, if you got cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash. So if you're somebody that's into crypto, you can donate that way. We got Patreon. You can become a Patreon member where you donate every month, which is cool. And don't forget, we also got a shop where you can buy lots of cool things. There's T-shirts, there's mugs, and it all goes to supporting freedom and keeping everything going here, and all the great hosts that we have on covering a lot of amazing topics. So anything you can donate, guys, is super appreciated and very grateful for that. And just to let you know that before I get my guest on, I just want to let you know my guest this evening is going to be Will Keller, and I just want to give you a little bit of information about Will first before I introduce him. So I just want to give you guys a little information here. So Will Keller is a freedom activist, animist, anarchist, student, and teacher of nature, and is a father. Will is the co-host and producer of National Freedom League video series and a content creator for the One Great Work Network. Will Keller is devoted and morally obligated to increase awareness on the causal factors of suffering for humanity and to expand the understanding of the current human condition by educating the public on critical topics such as conscious parenting, human psychology, human behavior, objective morality, natural rights, natural law, and the laws and the universal laws of nature. All of these topics are inseparable for understanding and achieving true freedom for humanity. And amazing. And I first heard about Will when I got his presentation, which is The State of Freedom. What is it? And is it? And sorry, oh my Lord, I'm sorry, guys. The State of Freedom, what it is and is not. And it was an amazing presentation. I've watched it several times and very powerful. So enough of me babbling on here. Let me just welcome my guest, Will Keller. Will, are you there, and how are you doing this evening?
Hey, Rick. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm so excited to have you on here because we're going to be talking about topics that are so dear to me and that I've been learning about for many years now. And I think they're so important now, especially with the way the way the world is right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that you're here to hear your thoughts on it. And as I was just saying, I first caught your presentation, The State of Freedom, what it is and is not, and it was amazing. Great stuff.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, I'll touch on that real quick. The FUNL Conference was a huge success. So everyone that joined us and viewed and donated, we're extremely grateful. So thank you for that. The group, it started out as a support group, Natural Freedom Alliance. And, after a year and a half of supporting each other and motivating each other, we decided it was time to create action. So we came up with the idea to have the Freedom Under Natural Law Conference, and it was phenomenal. So we're going to do more in the future.
Oh, that's going to be amazing. And you had so many great presentations on there. I've been watching them. That's how I first saw Leslie's lecture. Then I had her on last week, which, another amazing one. All the lectures I've been watching here are just amazing. And there's so much information that it's a great thing. And I definitely will. I'm going to leave a link in the chat for people to actually be able to go and check this out. And I'd strongly suggest that they watch the lectures. You'll learn a lot for sure. Amazing stuff.
Yeah, they're huge topics from natural birth, self-defense, conspiracy and analyzing perception and what's going on in the world, natural law, spirituality and the ultimate connection. It was just everyone followed through and executed incredibly. And, the tech stuff, a lot of these people are fresh to the technology, and they did a great like me as well. I'm constantly learning, right? We live in a technological age, so that's a huge component. Everyone did a great job. So yeah, freedomundernaturallaw.com. We have all the replays up there, and stay tuned.
Right, and that's something that we should touch on very quickly, Will, is that we have to learn the technology if we want to get this information out there. That was a bitter pill that I had to swallow a few years ago, and a realization I came to a few years ago is that I'm not going to be able to do this on my phone. You need equipment to do this, and that's the one problem I had, is that I just didn't have a good computer. I didn't have anything, and I was basically just hooked on my phone. And I didn't know any of the technology side of things. And I learned very quickly that if you want to start getting this information out in a very effective way, you're going to have to learn it. And so if I can learn it, I always tell people, well, if I can do it, anybody can, because I literally am learning this as I go. And I've told you that when we were talking off air, I'm learning this as I go. But you have to start somewhere. And at least I'm learning and I'm here, which is important.
That's a great attitude. Yeah, for me, it took me, a couple years to make the decision to kind of go public and start creating content. I was very much anti-technology. I wanted to homestead off in the woods, and I still want to do that, right? There's definitely a balance. But in the current conditions in the world, we need to get correct, positive messages out, and this is the best way to get that information out to the world. So, yeah, we got to know the tech. It's here. It's not going anywhere, and it's advancing. We need to understand that as well.
Exactly, 100%. And it's not that bad, guys, when you start actually doing it. And that's what I'm just saying from my point. I mean, I think the biggest fear I had was not it was so much scarier until I started doing it. And then once you start learning, it's not as bad as people think. That's the one thing I really can take away from that.
Yeah, I think most people get caught up in trying to strive for perfection or set the bar really high. Right. When in reality, you need to gather the information, the foundational information of tech, and then create an outline, get a plan, your intention, and then start. And you will evolve and grow as you go on. So, yeah.
100%. So, I mean, I think we should, we have a lot of topics here that we're going to be touching on. As I was saying before we got on live, that, I mean, you could spend a day talking about each one of these topics. So we're just going to be able to kind of touch on them a little, and then hopefully it'll make people really curious to start diving into them deeper. So, the topic I wanted, since it was, what your presentation was about, is freedom. What is freedom, Will?
Excellent question. What's more important than freedom, right? Freedom is the most important thing in existence, and we'll dive in why this is the case. And I'll start with some caveats. I try to keep my style, and when I propagate this information, I try to simplify the profound, because communication is extremely important, but if comprehension is missing, then the message in its totality, or it might be fragmented. And I think a big problem is that a lot of people have their own mentally perceived definitions of words. So it's good to start with definitions, right? Okay. Definitions mean clarity of meaning. So when we look at freedom, it's free will expression. Unrestrained free will expression, right? We exist, so we take certain actions, and what makes you free versus the opposite of freedom, which would be slavery, right? Slavery is a claim of ownership. It's restricting free will expression. So, and then we have the state of free will expression is freedom, and that's a flat bottom basic definition, but here's the key. Freedom is one of those terms that I think the majority of people in the world think they know. Like, oh yeah, I know what freedom is. We live in America. We are quote unquote free, right? But that's not actually the case. And this is where philosophy comes in. There's a huge lack of philosophy. Where are the great thinkers, the great minds? They're out there, but far and few between. And this is what philosophy does. It takes a concept, a word, anything, and it dives in deeper. You reduce it down, you apply it to yourself, and you apply it to the world. So this is pretty much the category that you and I are going to dive in today. It's the philosophical sections of freedom. What is freedom? Mm-hmm. So, we see a lot of protests going on, the Freedom Convoy, and as I'm observing these events, and watching videos of people commenting on them while they're there, I can easily see that they have a lack of knowledge of what freedom is. And not only what it is, but how to achieve it. Right. And this definitely leads to, our current human condition, and then the ultimate question, why? Why are we in the situation that we're in? How come it's not getting better? So, we'll touch on these things, but.
Right. And that's very true too, because I was like you, I was watching the convoys very closely, and I was watching the interaction between the protesters and the police, cops, whatever you want to call them. I call them order followers, but hey, if you want to call them police, mm-hmm. I'll meet you that way. And it was and I kept seeing the protesters, they were like, just one of you come to our side, and then all of you shall follow. And I just kept thinking, like, you don't understand what you're up against when you're dealing with a cult member. To me, it's a cult, the police force and people that are backing it and stuff like that. And I think that they think that if they just get one person over, it's going to be very simple. Everybody's going to join the other side. And I just was like, it doesn't happen that way. You have to first wake these people up. And it's not as easy as just telling you to come to another side. Like, I mean, and I get what they're trying to do, and I hear them yelling freedom. I heard that constantly, but I really like what you said, that I don't even think they really know what the word means mm-hmm. at a base level.
Yeah, exactly. This is going back to philosophy. You have to know the inner workings of what something means. Mm-hmm. People say they're for freedom, but their actions and behavior and understanding shows otherwise. Right. And I think it's really important too when we go on within this conversation that, and this is part of my style, is I do not use euphemisms. So some of this information for the listeners might create an emotional reaction inside, and that's good to acknowledge it, but don't let it steer your mental focus from listening to the information. Go back and then, process it and apply it to yourself later on. But using euphemisms is kind of sugarcoating, and it's almost being lightweight deceptive when people use euphemisms. And I think a lot of the euphemisms nowadays are coming from lack of knowledge. So.
Right. And then the one thing and that's so right, I totally agree that we can't sugarcoat anymore. I honestly do believe that we're in the mess that we're in because of people sugarcoating things, trying to be nice about it. And I think that's why a lot of us are where where humanity is at right now. And I like the way that you were saying that we should know the meaning of words and stuff like that. And the one thing I'd like to touch on and get your thoughts on is our natural rights and, basically our rights. And I went around and asked people, even in my own circle, can you describe to me what a right is? Like, can you just tell me the definition of a right? Because that's what people are saying, that we're losing our rights. We have to defend our rights. But then you ask them to define what a right is, and they can't give you a definition of it. So I want to get you to touch on that and maybe educate people on what a right is, what our natural rights are, and along that line.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, natural rights is something that people think they know, but this is a huge, huge piece of the puzzle because, well, just real quick, going back to freedom, right? Freedom is actually, it's the natural state of creation. Mm-hmm. It's the birthright of human beings and all beings, right? So, and within free will expression, we take actions and behaviors, right? So what behaviors are right and what behaviors are wrong? And we say that we want freedom, like how we touched on with the convoy. There's a lot of people that say they want freedom, but yet they're lacking the knowledge. And this is the type of knowledge that they need, because there are requirements for change, right? If you say you want certain conditions to be present, then you have to know the specific requirements that exist in order to achieve the change. So, natural rights. A right is simply any action or behavior that does not cause harm to another sentient being. Mm-hmm. So we exist in this reality, right? That's objective. Everyone can agree with that. And then we take certain actions. So what makes a right action a wrongdoing? And there's a common denominator, and that is harm. Right. As soon as harm is initiated and someone's aggressed upon, it's not a right, it's a wrongdoing because harm exists there. And, we can go on and on. There's an infinite amount of right actions that we can take. Right. But
only a few wrong. There's only a select few are wrong.
Yeah, you got it. Absolutely. And we can reduce these down to 7 and then ultimately 1. So if we look at the wrongdoings, we got murder, assault, rape, theft, coercion, trespass, and deception. All of these are a taking of something, right? Taking of life, of well-being, of sexual interaction, property, the security in your own domain, and then deception is taking valuable information, taking truth from someone to make an accurate decision. So all of these are a taking of something. And that is, we can sum it down to one thing, and that's theft. It's a taking. Right. It's a process of theft. So, and about now, people are like, okay, I agree with that, right? But we're going to apply it to the world in a little bit. So, when we think about rights, let's talk about the difference between force and violence.
Big difference.
Oh, for sure. Because, the first one I listed was murder. So now murder versus killing are completely different. Murder is the taking of life. Killing is the initiation of force to stop aggression. For instance, self-defense. So we exist in this realm, we take actions, and there's 2 principles that we need to understand. And the first one is the non-aggression principle, right? We all owe everyone one thing only, and that is non-aggression.
Correct.
The second, and that's the first one, right? That's in this order. That's the first. The second is, if we are aggressed upon, we have the natural right to defend ourselves. So that's self-defense. So right. Non-aggression and self-defense, very simple. These principles of the natural world, and yes. So, and principles mean first things first. So these are the foundational operating parameters that we need to understand and know as we exist in this reality field, right? Mm-hmm. We're having an experience to grow and to evolve in consciousness. So we
Right.
need to understand what the parameters are.
Right. And that's the one thing I've noticed too, and over the years, is that because we're talking about self-defense, is that and I know it's by design, that they're trying to make people think that anger is a bad thing, self-defense is a bad thing. Like they're definitely trying to steer it in that way to make people think that like anger, like righteous anger, is a bad thing. And it's not, because we're gifted with that emotion from birth. It's there for a reason, and it definitely lets us know when things are amiss. It should have let us know that, at least. And so I definitely see that, a lot of the new age stuff that I've been looking at and stuff like that they're very big on, never getting angry, always staying in a positive mood. Don't look at anything that's, bad, because you're going to make it worse and stuff like that. So I definitely understand what you're saying about that, like how I definitely see them trying to steer us in that direction.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Every emotion has a purpose.
Right.
And another thing that we can touch on too is just reality itself, right? What is the natural world? This is kind of getting all jumbled up in today's age, right? There's the natural world and the artificial. Natural meaning of or related to creation. It's inherent. And then artificial meaning man-made. Human beings created it. So it's pretty much the realm of the real and the realm of the fake,
right.
The faux. So, but that's good, because when we're talking about, we're talking about rights now, right? Which is, rights make up morality. The difference between right and wrong. This is morality. And here is, we're getting down to the root of the problem, right? And in today's world, a lot of people think that morality is a social construct, that it's relative, depending on time, place, and location, depending on culture. Well, those people over there do things differently. They have their own morality, or it's relative to each person. I have my morality, Rick has his morality,
right?
Yeah, and that's not the case. Looking in the natural
relativism.
World. Oh yeah, for sure, and we'll dive into that too as well.
For sure, yeah.
But in the natural world, the realm of the real, right? Rick exists, I exist. I can't harm Rick, and Rick can't harm me. This makes it objective.
Mm-hmm.
So it applies to everyone, everywhere, anytime.
100. Yeah, I couldn't say it better. I'm just really into this conversation. Thank you so much. It's so true. And that's one thing that I'm noticing too, and I think other people are starting to notice it too, that they're I don't like to call them the elite that run the world, because to me they're just garbage. I don't even want to give them this title that they have, or the Illuminati or whatever, that are running this world. But I do think most people realize that we are being controlled, and that there is a group of people controlling us. I think most people would agree with that. And I do see them definitely trying to keep people away from nature, and that because I'm like you, I'm very big in nature. I'm very close to it. I like gardening, and I've always been that way. I'm very aware of nature around me and things like that, and what's going on with the COVID and lockdowns and all of this garbage, I call it, and this pandemic, is that they are definitely trying to keep us away from nature, and definitely trying to tear people apart from getting into groups and talking, and trying to isolate us, keep us in our houses. I think that's the one thing that they do not want, is people actually starting to get in groups, talk like we are, and people on this station are. That is what I think they fear the most, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, for sure. They, the social engineers is how I like to.
Good one. That's good. Yeah.
Label the hidden hand. The people behind the curtain. Listeners need to understand that there is the people you see on TV, the politicians, the president. All these people are just the puppets that are. Their goal is for you to see them and give you. Give you the illusion that they're in some type of control position. In reality, there's a subset of humans that are behind the scenes. These people do not have social security numbers. They do not have birth certificates, right? They are making the claim, and they're doing a good job at it, at being the masters, the rulers of the world. right? They want to play God on earth, and they're doing a good job because they hold, when we talked about the requirements of change, they hold the information that the majority of people are lacking and don't understand. Right? So they hold this information. This information's passed down through their lineage, through their bloodlines, and they put their minions in these key positions, all in the institutions, the government institutions, cultural institutions, and they sway society. But the thing is that they are influencers. The human beings, we are all individually are actually taking the action. We're performing our own behavior. So that's why I say social engineers or influencers, because even though there's violations of natural rights all over the place on a daily basis, we still within ourselves have the power to control our behavior. It's just that if people are going to take in the correct information and then apply it to their own behavior.
Right, and the social engineers, which is a great way to put it, or I call them master psychologists. I've used that a lot too when I talk to people that you're dealing with people that know the human brain and the human condition so well that they got humanity pegged, and I mean they know what makes most people tick. They know how to manipulate that in any way that they want, and they definitely are. I see it all over. When you start seeing it, it's so obvious. Like it's kind of really a neat thing when you start to see it and you start noticing it, because it's everywhere, and they're definitely in every aspect of our life. They're influencing us, and they're trying to keep us away from getting any good information. And that I mean, anybody just do a Google search and try to find stuff on topics that are very important, like even on natural law and stuff like that. Or if you're trying to talk about good health, which I found out the hard way while I did a interview with Russ Tanner, and we were talking about mercury poisoning and what it can do to the body and stuff like that. And my video didn't even get to premiere on YouTube. They wouldn't even let it go on air, so I had to go and upload it somewhere else. But they are definitely censoring people, and that's what I'm definitely trying to fight against, is this censorship and trying to quiet people that are trying to get this good information out, because people like you and me and a lot of other people have this information, but they're making it very hard for people to get it out to the masses, kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, and you brought up some excellent points that I'll touch on real quick. So, yeah, you said advanced psychologists. Right. That's exactly what they are. They hold that the most important information, two categories of information, the knowledge of how the human mind works, the psychology of how the mind works and the body operates, and the knowledge of the operation of nature, the natural world. They know this profoundly. This is why they're able to plan hundreds of years in advance. And the control of information, right? This is, I mean, as soon as you start controlling information, this takes into a whole nother category of control. Right. And this is ultimately what their goal is. They want to keep us away from understanding nature and how we're not separate from nature. We are a part of nature. So this information, they keep it hidden and occulted. And this is what the category of occultism is.
Right. We should let people know. Well, this was when I learned about this a few years back. I know when people hear the word occult, at least in my circle of friends, they automatically go to the Hollywood variant, where they're thinking of people in black robes and they're sacrificing a chicken or something and they're chanting, and that's what they think of the occult. They think of like that aspect of it that you think of in Hollywood. Can you let people know what occult means? Like, just let's break down the word and what it means and what its true meaning, so people understand that.
Very good. Yes, occult, right, comes from the Latin oculus, which means eye. Occultism means hidden. So we're talking about hidden knowledge. That's all the definition means. But the question is, what knowledge? What kind of knowledge? What does that knowledge entail? And this is what we're referring to of how the mind works, the psychology, and the laws of nature, how nature operates. Now, And you're right. People do have an emotional reaction to that word because they've been conditioned and programmed to think it means something that it doesn't. For instance, you talked about doing a Google search, right? Did you know that it's like, I think it's 93% of the internet is occulted, meaning it's hidden from the majority of people. When people go to all the known search engines, Google, Yahoo, DuckDuckGo, all that stuff, you're only getting a very small fraction of the internet. It just shows you that the information's being curated to the public. So this is what, like the dark web and getting on the torrent systems and stuff like that. So the information that we're talking about is out there. There are people talking about it, but we need to amplify that voice for sure. For sure.
Right. And then they're doing everything in their power not to let the voice get out there because I know they're scared of people waking up and learning about natural law and freedom and stuff like that. Once that is what they think they fear the most, and so they're doing everything they can. And the one thing that I do know, and the one thing I try to tell people is, and I harp about this a lot in other interviews that I've done, is I really like to get into order followers and that, because as I've said in previous interviews and when I talk to my friends and that the reason that we're in this mess is that a lot of people don't have this knowledge that we're speaking about. They haven't looked into it. And then the fact that of order followers, like I truly believe that we're in this mess because of order followers and not knowing the difference between, not knowing morality, not knowing the difference, not even knowing what a right is, or maybe not even caring what a right is. I imagine some don't even care. Or any of that kind of like that. So, that's what I really think that we've got into this mess by people that are just blindly following orders, which I think is how we're here and how we're staying here.
Yeah, absolutely. Order followers, following orders, we're going to talk about what that means. But you're right. The majority of people lack the most fundamental information, and that's the information on really how to act in the world. Right. So this is a huge problem because obviously the social engineers, their goal is to create the ultimate control system. So, they're using our energy as their own, however they see fit. Right. But following orders, what is an order follower? An order follower is someone that follows through and acts on a command by someone else that they consider a superior person.
Right.
And now, of course, we can talk about the top order followers, which would be the police and the military. But also, order followers expands deeper than that to nurses, doctors, school teachers, anyone that is not making their own decision, using their own conscience, and they're just doing something because someone told them to do it.
Right. And then I'm going to try to play a clip, guys. I've never done this before. I did test it out with Will beforehand, so I'm hoping this is going to work because I do want to play this clip. So let me just try to bring this up. And this is, let me just bring it up here. And hopefully, hold on here. I will get this, Will, I promise.
Oh, you're doing great, Rick.
Yeah, we're going to get it going. But so this is from Mark Passio's lecture, The Cult of Ultimate Evil, Order Followers and the Destruction of the Sacred Feminine. And I just think that this little clip that we're going to play is really going to show you what, a true sense of an order follower and the definition of an order follower. And then we can kind of talk about it, Will, after we listen to it. So hopefully everybody can hear this, and I'm going to play it. Let me know, Will, if you can't hear it. And then, so let me just go ahead and play it here.
How you doing? Hey, my
name's
name's
Adam.
Nice to meet you. I was in the Marines. I do a YouTube channel now called Adam versus the Man. You mind telling me what it's like being here for inauguration?
It's a great thing to be here.
Right on. Can I ask about what you think of President Obama?
Well, I support our new leader, and that's pretty much all I really feel about that.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Support our leader. Hey, our new Commander-in-Chief, Obama! Selling show moment, Shane. Get off.
So when you enlisted, you swore an oath to the Constitution, right?
Yes.
And do you think Obama's policies are constitutional?
I don't really follow politics too much.
So you swore an oath with your life to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, born in a domestic and you have no idea what that means.
Hey, sounds good to me, sir, if that's the way you want to put it.
Really? That's it?
That's it.
That sounds pretty dangerous. It sounds like following orders without question.
Nope, I just do what I'm told by my leaders, so that's pretty much it. I leave the politics to other people.
So you do follow orders without question?
From my leaders, yes.
Yeah. So if they told you to do something that was immoral, you wouldn't question it. You wouldn't wonder what the basis of that was, or where that order came from, or what its real purpose was. You just do it because someone told you to, and they're paying your paycheck.
Hey, whatever you want to say, sir.
Hey, don't call me sir. I was a sergeant.
There you go.
I worked for a living.
Okay.
But I got out and I found out what was wrong with following orders without questioning them. And I found out that when I was in Fallujah in 2004 with the Marine Corps Civil Affairs team, we weren't really serving the people or protecting people. We were serving the politicians and the banksters and the war profiteers. I mean, doesn't that bother you to know that you're a pawn in all that and that you allow it to happen by just following orders without question?
Hey, whatever way you feel, sir.
Well, I'm asking how you feel.
Well, it's not really important how I feel.
Feelings been conditioned out of you? You're a soldier now?
However you feel, sir.
Well, is there anything else you want to say on the subject for posterity?
No, sir.
Well, let me tell you, hey, you got to stop calling me sir, man.
All right, sir.
Staff Sergeant? Oh, all right, I see how it is. Well, there's an organization called Oath Keepers, and it's about people who take their oath to that Constitution seriously and want to make sure that things like what happened in Katrina, where there were soldiers and National Guard troops asked to take away citizens' firearms who were trying to defend themselves, or, troops being used against the American citizens. They want to make sure that doesn't happen. Would you be interested in having a little a more understanding of your oath and commitment to the Constitution that you swore an oath to support and defend?
I'm good the way I am, sir.
Really? Doesn't that make you part of the problem?
Hey, if there's a problem, I'm not aware of it.
Is ignorance bliss?
Could be, sir.
Could be. I don't think you're as dumb as you make yourself out to be. I think you're playing me off.
Might be, sir.
You might be. I'm pretty confident in that, actually.
All right.
You're smarter, aren't you? You know what I'm talking about.
Well, I got a job to do, sir.
What's your name, Staff Sergeant?
Bob.
What's your last name, Staff Sergeant?
That's all I got, sir.
You're a public servant, are you not?
Sounds good to me, sir.
You don't want any kind of accountability for what you're saying, do you?
No, sir.
Well, you don't have any name badge on. Special Police, Staff Sergeant Bob. Thank you for your time. I hope you'll at least take the advice of an older veteran and think about some of these issues.
Have a good day, sir.
All right, appreciate it.
Yep.
Well, I don't know what more. I don't know what more to say. I mean, if that ain't the definition of an order follower, I'm actually watching this again. I'm shocked. I really am.
Yeah, that's as bad as they get. And you can see now, I actually wouldn't consider that guy actually human. Now, I mean, yes, physical body, he looks human, but what does it mean to be human, right? This is what separates us from the animal kingdom, plant and mineral kingdoms, is that we do have a higher order thought process that we use in the frontal lobe. This allows us for logic and reason and to process this type of information, right? This puts us in a completely different category. This guy is not thinking. If you're not thinking whatsoever, I mean, are you truly human? I'm saying that like in a spiritual sense, right? This man is broken. This is why they do, boot camp and, for the police and military, they have, the academy. They do this for nurses and doctors, right? In med school. There's always that foundational process where they have to, program the being. Right. So, for instance, if the military, police and military, the academy and boot camp is so brutal, they need to break the psyche down, and then they're going to program it with the information that they want to program with. So, unfortunately, the police and military, these are the people. Now, so why is this a bad thing? It's a bad thing because they are actually committing the actions. They are doing the behaviors of the social engineers.
Right.
Right.
And that's
they're
what
not,
I've asked.
They're not questioning anything.
Right, and I've asked my friends this. I think it's a great thing to ask people, and what I've asked my friends is, and it's a great thing, I suggest people do this, is when you're looking at order followers and the people giving the orders, who is more morally culpable for the action that's the damage that's done from this order? Is it the person giving the order, or is it the person actually following the orders, the order follower? And a lot of people say, at least the people I've asked, is that they think that the order follower is the one that is more morally wrong what they're doing. And I'm like, no. Can you kind of explain that? It's the order giver. Right, because they're, the order follower is the one actually carrying out the action. So they're definitely taking more of that karmic brunt if they're the ones actually performing the order, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah, and causing the harm.
Right.
Right? So, I mean, we can even look at doctors and nurses. How many doctors understand that the genetic modification or the needlecraft is harmful, but yet they still give it to people?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's like order followers isn't just for the police and military. It's nurses, doctors. I mean, I put teachers in there. Right? This might upset a lot of people, but teachers, I mean, knowing that masks are harmful and suffocating children, but yet they have to do it because who? The state says, or their boss says so. They need that paycheck. They need to put food on the table. So it's pretty much selling your soul. It's the abdication of responsibility. Now, what is responsibility? Right? Response-able. The ability to respond. So as a human being, right, we take actions, and how are we going to respond to certain situations and actions? This is why the order followers, they are the grunts. They are the strong arm of the controllers because they are performing the actions. We can look at the war going on right now, and I mean the bankers are funding both sides, right? This is just another sacrifice of human life, and those soldiers aren't questioning anything because they've been broken in the mind and in the spirit, and now they just perform the actions.
Right,
So,
and that's what I noticed too with when I was watching the protest too, is that you could see that there was the light, there was nothing in their eyes, because I was really focusing on, I wanted to see what the police were going to do. To me, this was like a test of where humanity was at. I was like, I want to see with these protests, how the police react and how, everybody at the rallies was acting and the protest was acting. And I just remember, and I was talking about this in a previous show, and I think I brought it up when I had Leslie on, that I was watching a clip where a woman was just going along the sidewalk. She was just filming, and she wasn't bothering anybody. She was just on the public sidewalk filming, and a police officer came up to her and was really giving her a hard time, saying, "You can't film me. You shouldn't be on the streets. Get out of here. We're going to arrest you." And when I looked in his eyes, I could see in a millisecond, if his commanding officer would have told him to pull out his little club and throw that woman on the ground and beat her and then arrest her, he would have done it without question. You could see it in his eyes that he did not care. Morality be damned, rights be damned. It did not matter. You could just tell that he would have done it. And it's that stuck with me so bad, and it's still in my mind when I think about this stuff.
Well, yeah. What about the people who got trampled by the horses in the Canadian convoy, right? And then the order followers, the police, were caught on camera laughing about it. Mm-hmm. You have to understand, the order followers, they think they're in a higher class of human beings, right? They're actually just the house slave. Right, they get special attention from the controllers, and that's good enough because they've been broken down in the psyche. Now what makes someone want to be an order follower?
Good topic.
Yeah, let's talk about the psychology. Well, 99% of it does stem from childhood. There's a lack of the mother, the parental figures. There's a lack of either motherly or fatherly. So people don't heal from this, right? And it just keeps building up, and then they seek that because there's an internal contradiction. There's confusion internally that they haven't processed. So they seek that lack of, right, either the mother or the father. They seek it externally, and they'll seek it into an institution or a certain type of people.
Mm-hmm.
Because with the police and military, it's one thing, they feel like they're a family, right? That is like the father that they didn't have. And the thin blue line, these are clubs of people. So there, unfortunately, when you look at like Republicans that think that, the police and military are good and they want, there are good police and military, as long as they stick to their oath, right? The oath of what? The oath of the Constitution, where our rights do not come from the Constitution. The Constitution is a piece of paper. That's all it is. This is what we're talking about, that morality is objective and inherent in nature, in the natural world. Our rights come from nature, creation, because we exist. That's where they come from. We do not need a piece of paper to say we are sovereign. So
exactly.
Yeah.
100%. And that's the thing that I think bothers me the most is that that people think that, people in government that they can just make rights up as they want, like at a whim, and the one topic that I think about a lot is the marijuana topic. And, years ago, like if you got caught with a gram of weed, they would throw you in jail and basically throw you into the jail. There's so many people in jail for having just marijuana. And then just on when the politicians decided that, okay, now it's going to be legal, they make it legal. They just think they have the right to do that. And then what about all these lives they affected for all of these years before that? Like there's been families that have been destroyed for somebody having a little bit of marijuana on them and stuff like that. But now because somebody waved a magic pen, it's a right, it's okay, and everybody's good with it. That's wrong in so many ways.
Yeah, it's only a claim. It can never be a right. Human beings can. Oh no, it's fine. I was just kind of going off of what you were saying.
Right, I'm just frustrated.
Oh yeah, no, I mean this is a perfect topic to lead into applying this information to the world and talking about the human condition. Like what is the state of the world? Now we define what freedom is, right? Freedom, the state of unrestricted free will expression. So if we're talking about marijuana, right? A powerful plant that can be used in so many different ways.
Right.
I mean, cannabis itself can revolutionize the whole civilization with the uses it's from. But anyways, let's just stick to the principles.
And I just want to say too, Will, that cannabis, if it wasn't for cannabis and me taking it medically the way that I am, I wouldn't even be I'd be bedridden. And that's just being 100 with everybody. That's how powerful it is as a medicine. It is a medicine. And it keeps me moving every day. And I mean, it's way better than any pharmaceutical drug that they've been trying to give me my whole life that I'm like, no, I'll stick with this.
Absolutely. Why? Because it's natural. It's a magical plant. Pharmaceuticals are artificial. They're man-made. Men created them. It will never. Pharmaceuticals will never be the equivalent. To natural medicine in certain ways. But going back to taking cannabis, right? It's your body. You put something into your body, but yet there are other human beings that say, no, you can't do that, right? So what is actually going on there where they say, hey, in this location, you cannot put something into your body? That is a claim of ownership. If you can't put it in your own body because someone says, I say you can't, they're making a claim onto you, meaning that they are claiming they own you. That you are their property. They get to say the usage, the control, the amount, all of that, right? So this is the state of the world. Expand this out to the totality. We have government. Government exists. So what is government? Well, the word government, if we break it down, it's gubernare, which means to control, and then mentes, which is the mind. So it's mind control. But what is it really? What's the philosophical angle on it? Government is the belief in authority, in human authority, that certain human beings have the power or the right to control other human beings. Meaning that they can dictate and issue commands, and and the other human beings must obey them. Now, that's what government is. Now, government isn't an entity, right? It really comprises of it's human beings that hold a belief system. And now this belief system is the belief in authority. It's a religion. They're with religious fervor they believe in this.
100%.
And there's different gradients, right? You have you have the extremists on both sides, and then you have going all the way down to libertarians. And I don't go light on libertarians, because libertarians is just like, well, we just want a little bit of government, right? You can look
government light.
Yeah, government light, exactly. Because they have not made the realization that morality is objective, meaning you cannot have a little bit of government and be a moral person, right? It's a control system. It's the belief in slavery.
Right.
So,
and that's what it is when you break this all down. It's slavery. And 100% when you start believing in this system and I think of even how the government takes money from people every paycheck, and it's just so messed up. And then the fact that people are okay with this is not okay to me, because it's slavery, and they have no right to do what they're doing. And the fact that they think they can just give themselves these magical rights is that's the problem. That's where we're.
Well, yeah, we'll tie this in with order followers, right? Because the social engineers is just a very small group of people, right? Mm-hmm. They just know how to manipulate and influence the masses. Right. So you have government, the belief in human authority, right? But they also have a monopoly on violence and coercion and duress, because they have the order followers under them that will come and drag you out of your house because you put a plant in your body, and they'll lock you up in a cage. So they will violate you, right? So or they'll go and bomb a country just because, someone said to. They don't question it. So that's why they're the strong arm of the control system of slavery. Now, This is hard for people to understand, right? That the human condition on this planet is in fact 100% slavery. And we are enslaved by our own doing. It's because the majority of people they have incorrect thinking and immoral or incorrect behavior. Mm-hmm. So this is the problem. And, a lot of people haven't even thought about these concepts because, philosophy, the internal dialect of thinking deeply, is not really there. And it's been bred out of people. Public schools, conditioning, the indoctrination camps, they want people to think a certain way. And that's where we come in. We need to come in and talk about this type of information as much as possible, but also understand that this is extremely hard for people, right? Because they're under emotional control as well,
right?
And they're not using logic and reason correctly. It's just a reaction instead of responding.
Right. Right. And I do notice that, and I think a lot of people would agree too, is that they definitely control by fear, because they always want to keep you in that. They're always keeping people in a state of fear. You had COVID, now we got a war, and then when that kind of dies down, I'm sure they're going to come up with, well, they already are coming up with a new variant of COVID. So it's always constant fear, 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 because they know if they keep the human brain and a person in that state of fear, you're not thinking clear, for one thing, because you're working on a reaction base. You're just reacting, because they got you in that fear. You're not thinking clearly. You're not using your whole brain. You're kind of just in that reptilian part where you're reacting. Mm-hmm. And definitely by design that they're keeping us in this state of fear.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. For sure. Definitely by design. Because when you're in fear, right, the body rearranges itself for fight, flight, or freeze. Right? Because it's all about survival.
Right.
So now you are using the reptilian mind of the brainstem, where it's just, the blood is just going straight to the legs and the arms because you're ready to fight or you're ready to run. Right? So now, even on a physiological aspect, right? That there's less blood in the brain, less oxygen, people aren't thinking clear, all by design, because they know how the body and the mind works, and this is why they do that. So, you know, and then and the emotional control aspect, which is, you know, majority controlled by the mammalian part of the brain. This is, you know, has emotions. This is what controls emotions. So that's why everyone's so emotionally reactive when you talk about something. We need to step into that the higher faculties of logic and reason.
Right, and we definitely, because we are coming up to the top of the hour here, so I know that there's going to be break music happening any second now. So just to let everyone know that we are here with Will Keller. We are discussing a lot of great topics that are so dear to my heart. We're talking about freedom. We're going to be touching on natural law. We're talking order followers. So definitely, guys, come back after the break, and we will be back in like 5 minutes, guys.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. All right, thanks for listening while we take that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And yeah, we're going to get back to your host.
Well, welcome back, everybody. I hope everybody had themselves a good little break there, got up, did a little stretching, got yourselves a coffee. We are here with Will Keller, and we are discussing a lot of great topics, a lot of topics that I love to study and talk about. Definitely we're touching on freedom, and we're looking at order followers and what causes them. And before the break, we were talking about fear and how fear is keeping humanity, like how, you know, humanity being kept in this state of fear is leading to a lot of our problems. So welcome back, Will.
Hey, Rick. Thanks for having me back.
Not a problem. So we were discussing fear, and I think we should talk about that a little bit more, and maybe fear and consciousness and stuff like that, because I do think that it is a big key to this problem, is that a lot of humanity is constantly in that state of fear, which we both agree is by design. So if you want to touch on more on that, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I saw a meme yesterday about fear, and it was fear stands for face everything and run, or face everything and rise. I think I might have messed that up, but anyways, this is an important topic to understand. Most fear, or all fear, first of all, derives from ignorance. Right, the lack of knowledge, it's from the unknown, and the primal fear is the fear of death. This is what activates a lot of people when they think about, you know, if we look at the world with the socially perceived crisis, right, the deadly virus that's out there is that I might die, I might get sick, and I might die, and this actually, fear itself dictates most people's life in a way, because they haven't dove deep into and contemplated the natural realm. And what is death? What's the difference between death and dead and being dead? Well, death itself is a natural process, just like birth. And we can see this in nature. It's everywhere. It's a transformation of energy. Mm-hmm. So, but being dead means you do not have any thought functions whatsoever. The capabilities are stagnant. They have ceased, and this is where we see a lot of people at. They're not using the higher thought form faculties. So this is why the social engineers call people the dead or the unbegun, because they haven't began that process of self-evaluation and self-realization. So one of the strongest tactics that they use, classic in their playbook, they've been using it for eons, is the Hegelian Dialectic, where they give, they give a situation, they create a situation that gets a reaction from the public, and then they step in with the solution. For instance, socially perceived crisis. The television said that there's a deadly virus. It scared everyone. And then they came out with the genetic modification, right? And it was just a way for them to tighten the grip on the control system. And that leads to other things. This is what they do constantly. We see it, how it just seamlessly just transitioned into war now. And they just keep doing that. And that's what keeps people in the state of fear.
100%. And that is so true, too, because I remember when a couple years ago, and I think a lot of people remember back when this virus came out, that the fear that they were pumping, it was ramped up. Like, they went at it, like they really threw in for this one. And I remember even listening to the news in my area, and they were like, if you don't stay in, and this is going to get so bad that there's going to be bodies all over the streets. They're not going to be able to keep up with all the people dying. And they were really scaring people. It was working, at least in my area. I can only speak for what in my immediate area and stuff. And they really were scared, and a lot of people still are that way. And as I pointed out now, like 2 years into this, and 2 years and a little bit, if I never heard the TV, if I'd never had the TV on, never heard the media talking about this, I wouldn't even know that there was a supposed pandemic going on. I mean, you wouldn't even know it. It's just, but people hook into this TV, or they look at these news medias and stuff like that, and it's just constant. They're just hammering people with it, and it never stops. It's always something new.
Yeah. The television definitely was created as a weapon for the military. Sure. We can look at Operation Mockingbird. It's a propaganda tool. This is what it is. To captivate the minds. Why? So they can control, they can manage your perception management for behavior control, because our actions and our behaviors are dictated by the information that we hold in our mind.
Right.
So this is why this information is so important on how the human psyche works, how the natural world operates. It's so we can get an accurate perception of reality, of that which is, so we can align our behavior accordingly.
Right, and that's what people are definitely not doing, is like with their actions and stuff like that. And you're so right that I've known that for years. I mean, TV, that they've just used that as a weapon. I think I hope most people listening would agree with that. And especially with the products that they're putting out on the TV. Like the one thing I did notice, because when I was at my friend's place, he had the TV going on and stuff like that, and you can see the programming, because every ad after the show was a drug commercial, like for every ailment that you could think of, even ones I never even thought was an ailment that they're trying to give drugs for and stuff like that. So you can definitely see that they're trying to go down that path, and definitely staying away from the natural law, the natural way of doing things. They don't want anybody knowing about anything natural anymore. It's just, everything's got to be done by man. And I'm thinking nature's given us all that we need. We just have to remember.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's why they call it programming, right? Or the programs are on. And this is what it comes down to. It comes down to consciousness, right? And first of all, let's define consciousness if anyone's not familiar with this. So consciousness is a being's ability to recognize patterns within oneself and in its environment. So we cannot solve any problem from the same level of consciousness that created the problem. So this is, so we're talking about higher consciousness. Right. We have a problem. The problem is that we are enslaved because people have incorrect thinking, leading to immoral behavior. So in order to get a wider scope, to pull back and see the forest from the tree or the leaves, right? Mm-hmm. We need to take in information. And this is if consciousness is pattern recognition, we need to take in information to raise our pattern recognition and see these issues. So we take in knowledge, we process that, and that turns into understanding, and then we can output that into wisdom, which is knowledge applied, which is our behavior. So ultimately, it always comes down to consciousness. We can reduce existence down to consciousness. This is the prime principle. Everything is mind. Everything is consciousness. This is why I'm an animist. And I look at everything at states of consciousness. So that's getting down to, because that gets down to the causal factors, the why of things. That's what we need to do. Everyone's always kind of looking at, if we're talking, especially even the alternative media, they're always talking about the current events and what's going on in the world. These are simply the effects. The physical realm has already manifested. This is the manifested realm, right? There is a causal realm, and that's the realm of mind. You have the thought first, and then you take the action. So there's a process to things. Even looking at the natural world, natural being of or related to creation or God. We are in the mind of God. So these are deep concepts that people have lost over the years. The knowledge of philosophy and metaphysics, deep metaphysics. And metaphysics being beyond the physical. This is the spiritual or the energetic or the mental realm. So, and that's kind of one thing that I'm trying to do in my work is take these big concepts and then simplify them down for people to digest. But if we're speaking simply, right? Morality is objective. Government exists because we do not understand that morality is objective and it applies to everyone. So we are giving away our power. We're giving away our energy, and we're the ones that are enslaving ourselves.
Exactly. 100%. And that was what I was having a discussion with a friend of mine who does a show, and he was very, very upset because he's been following the rallies and what's going on, and he keeps saying that nothing is changing, like everything is staying the same, and like the police, they're not changing, they're not going to the other side and learning about and joining with the protesters and stuff like that. And I was trying to explain to him that it's not changing because we're not addressing what is causing the problem. We're looking at, like, right now when we see what's going on in the world, it's because of actions that have happened in the past, and we're seeing the effects for them now. So he's really upset that things aren't changing, and he's not seeing the change. And I said, that's because we keep addressing the symptoms and we're not going after the problem. We have to start waking people up and teaching them about natural law and morality and stuff before we're going to see any changes in the symptoms.
Yeah, 100%. There are requirements for change, and that lies in the mental realm, the causal realm. We need to have a correct understanding of how the world, how it operates, and then align our behavior to it. So it's, as I think, so I feel, and then so I act.
The Trinity.
We need to be in the Trinity, exactly. We need to be in alignment. That's what that means. And I'll say one thing too, about the state of the world being slavery. Slavery is another word that people immediately assign their own mentally perceived definition to, right? They immediately go to, Civil War era with black slavery, and that is overt slavery. Now, I'm going to tell you why overt slavery is better. I don't know if that's even the right term, than covert. When it is overt slavery, shackles, chains, and whips, everyone knows we're enslaved. It's obvious. We can see it. It's right in front of our face. But in the state of the world where we are now, where it's covert, someone needs to actually have the correct information and the ability of critical thinking to discern what's going on.
Right.
So it's kind of hidden, but yet it's there. We're being violated every day through taxation, regulations, permits, war, all this shit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's the thing is that and a lot of people say, well, we just got to get the right person in the power. We got, if we just get this person in the power, everything's going to change for the better. And I keep trying to tell them that that's never, it hasn't worked in the past, and it sure as the hell isn't going to work in the future. Part of pattern recognition, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. I mean, I've known that forever. It seems that we're not going to vote our way out of this problem. Like, it's not, one person is not going to change the way humanity is. We have to do the work ourselves. This is an individual person's work to do this on themselves and then try to get out there and teach it to other people. That's how we're going to change this problem that we're in right now, not by voting somebody in or some new party in or some new, religion or something like anything like that. This has to be done on an individual basis.
Oh, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I'm glad you brought that up, that there is no one that is going to save us.
Right.
The savior complex, right, is a huge problem. And this is something that's been conditioned for eons in monotheism, in religion, in the cultural religions, that there is a savior that is going to, come and save us. Mm-hmm. This is all on us, right? There are no group rights. There is no political solution because politics is theater. Government is slavery under duress, meaning that as soon as your free will is violated, which that is coercion, it enters into slavery.
Exactly.
So it's you either do what we say or else we are going to harm you. This is what government is.
Exactly.
And and the state of slavery. It doesn't need continual violence. But it does need a continual state of duress, meaning the threat of violence.
Right. And that's exactly what they put people under.
Yeah,
100%.
Sure.
It's always that threat. If you step out of line, this is going to happen to you. If you say this is going to happen to you. And I've even noticed that in the social media sense, that they're even doing it that way, that if you try to say something that they don't like, they pull your video, they pull your comment, they ban you. They're always having you in that state of duress. They definitely do.
Now, what does that sound like, too, what you just said? That was excellent. You know what this is where culture comes in. Generational mind control. Mm-hmm. Do this, or I'm going to harm you, right? That it sounds like a parental figure.
Yep.
In culture, right? You better do this or I'm going to spank your ass. Or, that's what parents say. Not me. Part of my work is conscious parenting, meaning breaking these erroneous belief systems within ourselves, and that will radiate out even to being a facilitator for a young being,
right.
AKA a parent. See, we condition our children, and they grow up and pass these traditions on. This is generational mind control. This is why conscious parenting, in my opinion, is the game changer. Anyone that has kids, this information is vital. I did a presentation on it, conscious parenting for conscious beings, raising children, raising their consciousness, their awareness to understand morality, objective morality, and how to operate in the world, and then to exercise their conscience, conscience, right? So,
right.
It's a huge topic, but
yeah, that's a topic.
We're always playing catch up, right?
Right.
In parenting, the parenting aspect, we're playing catch up because the majority of people do not understand objective morality, and they teach their kids incorrectly, and then the cycle continues.
Wow. Very, very true. And that's a topic that we could talk about. That's another whole show. Just on that one, that's just the one. So I've got to have you back to talk about that, Will, because that is another whole topic there. So definitely,
I'm extremely passionate about conscious parenting, and I highly recommend anyone go check out my. I have 2 presentations. So.
Okay, perfect. Yes, I will definitely recommend that too for people to watch. And so, like as we're discussing this, I definitely know, at least from I know this because I've been looking into it for years. But the way out of this is that people definitely have to learn about natural law. We've kind of we've brushed on that, and we've kind of talked about it during this interview. Can you let's kind of break down natural law, because I know a lot of people that when I say natural law, it's always a combination of things. They don't know what I mean at all, or they immediately go to survival of the fittest, or Darwinism, or they go somewhere along that lines. Can you let people know what you mean by natural law and the meaning of it, and kind of give people that the basis for that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, we'll start with definitions, right? And it has many names and titles. So, but I do use it as natural law. The natural meaning of or related to creation. So it's non-man-made, and then law. The correct definition of law is it's immutable and unchanging. So the delineation is capital L, capital A, capital W, versus lowercase l, a, w, which is law, like man's law, like men created laws, which is artificial, fake. Law, natural law, is the laws of creation. Now, this is a huge topic. I mean, these are the boundary conditions in reality. The Creator has put parameters on how everything operates within this reality field. So natural law it's also known as universal law, spiritual law, cosmic law, moral law, karmic law, the law of cause and effect, the golden rule. Mm-hmm. We're talking about direct in context to morality and human behavior. Most people know the physical laws, gravitation, thermodynamics, magnetism. These are the physical laws, but most people don't know the metaphysical, beyond physics. These are the energetic laws that affect everything in every way and everyone. And like what you said, that, people get it confused with, like Darwinism or survival of the fittest, the law of the jungle, natural order. That's not what this is.
Right.
So natural law, in context to how we're using it, is based on objective morality. It's a set of universal, eternal, inherent, non-man-made, objective, unchangeable conditions that govern the consequences of the behaviors that we choose through our own free will. Mm-hmm. So, when simply put, we take an action, there will be an effect, cause and effect. Now, we can experience this every day, but now let's apply it to the world, right? So, and when we say the collective, or when I say the collective or the aggregate, it's always based on the individual, because the individuals make up the aggregate. So when the majority of people their behavior is immoral, then the aggregate condition of society will lead to slavery, lead to control and duress. Right. And then when the aggregate, or when the individuals, the majority of individuals are living morally, meaning they know how to act, then we can be on the road and achieve true freedom. Right. So, like when the people are saying, they're the person, like he's not seeing change. You see the convoy, and people think that, we're winning. We're getting freedom. The new order's going down and all this kind of stuff. But yet the cops just come right in and just trample over people and shut it down. No problem, right? This is because they don't understand how the world operates.
Right. And that's the thing. That's what I was trying to explain to him, is that what we're seeing now is because of not following the proper way in the past. Like, we're kind of seeing it manifest now. It's not like and I try to explain to people too that, like, I guess if you look at it from a karma way, it's not like a one-on-one ratio where if you do, somebody does a bad, then a little bad comes to them, and that's like, I love the way you bring up the aggregate, that it's humanity creating this as a whole. We're all individuals, but it's all pooling into, we're kind of putting it all into the pool. And then, when I look at humanity now, and I see the reactions of what's going on and what's going on in our world now, I think anybody can look and say, are we living under natural law as a species, as an aggregate? Definitely not, because look at the outcome that we have now.
Correct. Yeah, and a good example, if we look in history, we can look at the Nazi era, right? The German people was in the aggregate. The German people, did they understand objective morality and that the belief in human authority is illegitimate and immoral? Well, no, they didn't understand that. That's why they government and Hitler came into play, and the Socialist Union thrived, and then bam, you see what happened there. It's like, so, but you mentioned karma, and I want to touch on this. Karma means action, and although we do have our individual karma, our path, but karma's not like, I stole something from my grandma, I walked out the door, get hit by a car. It doesn't operate like that.
Right. You do something bad, a bee comes along and bites you in the ass. I mean, you'd learn karma really quick if it was that quick.
Yes. Yeah, correct. But we have karma that is built up through our whole lifetime.
Right.
And then, added to our individual journey of evolution. This is dharma. So we do have individual karma, but this doesn't. We're talking about it in context to humanity, the human condition, and this is based on the aggregate, the collective, and it's over long waves of time that we see it. But simply put, and so one thing that we have to understand is energy. Right? Energy, the G meaning generation, generative. This is the life force. This is what, moves things. We're using our energy. It's the driving force behind actions.
Right.
So when our mind and our heart are in alignment and they're not in contradiction, this is unity consciousness. This is the real law of attraction. Right? As I think, so I feel, and so I act. So we need to ask ourselves, what are we giving our energy to? What do we truly care about? Do we care about freedom? People say they care about freedom, but they don't understand the inner workings. And are they willing to take on new information and then apply it to themselves?
Right. And that is what I'm finding, even as I talk to the people that are around me, is that a lot of people aren't even, like I'm telling you, Will, it's a chore to get people to look at new information. At least the people I've talked to, they are very, very set in their ways. And as soon as you try to talk to them about this, or you kind of want them to look into it, even just to look at it and kind of like kind of lead them up to the water. They say you can bring a horse up to water, but you can't make it drink. And I've been trying to do this for a couple years now, and people really fight you on this. We're up against it's a big battle. It really is.
Yeah, it's the hardest work to do. The hardest work to do is to step out into the public and go against the narrative and the programming and the conditioning, and speak truth. Mm-hmm. So we need to do this just based on the moral obligation. This is activating and harmonizing with the Creator's will, because the creation does want freedom. This is freedom is a natural state.
Right.
So we just have usurpers that are manufacturing and manipulating people, manipulating people into creating the state of slavery.
Exactly.
So again, we're doing it to ourselves, and this is the hardest work, because as anyone that brings truth to family members or friends, they get a dose of their emotional reactions or their mind control, get labeled crazy and all this kind of stuff. So the one great work, right, that was kind of coined by Mark Passio, but there's also the great work, which this is an extremely old concept, it's a Hermetic philosophy, probably older than that as well. The great work is self-mastery.
Right.
It's doing the internal analyzing and evaluation and asking ourselves or asking oneself, why do I believe the things that I believe? Or what do I believe? Why do I take the actions that I do? Why do I believe in government? Why do I think voting is going to actually have an impact? Why do, like asking these hard questions and looking at one's own insecurities and faults. This is also called shadow work.
I was going to bring that up, shadow work. That was a huge game changer in my life when I actually sat down, and we were talking about this off air, where I sit every day in a room for an hour quiet, and I confront myself, and people kind of look at me funny when I say that, and a lot of times they're like, oh, that's easy, I could do that. You just sit there in a room for an hour and confront yourself. I'm like, try it sometime. It is not easy work when you start confronting yourself and your beliefs and why you have them. And I think it's so important. It's been so life-changing that I started doing this. It's huge into breaking this spell that they have over us.
Absolutely. This is why it's called the great work, is to look in the mirror and face your shadow. Shadow representing the subconscious mind, meaning that these are the failures and the insecurities that one has buried deep within themselves. They're not gone, though. In fact, on the contrary, they actually come out in behavior. So we need to bring the light to the darkness, meaning we need to bring conscious awareness to what we are not wanting and we are avoiding and ignoring. This is the internal great work. This is where it all starts. Like I said, you can't solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created it. We have to look within. This is where it starts, and we need to face ourselves, reconcile, and correct our behavior. Right. And once we get to a certain and this is a lifelong journey undertaking.
For sure.
that we're going to do. In this reality, there's no such thing as perfection, right? So we're constantly learning, failing, succeeding. We're doing all this. We need to integrate this within our being. So it's continual. But with the condition of the world, we need to do that healing, and then we need to use our voice, the strongest forces that we have. Weapons that we have, and we need to speak truth to the public. And I want to speak the truth, and I want to actually clarify this too, the truth, because there is no my truth, there is no Rick's truth, your truth, her truth. That's relative truth. That means truth is different for each person. There's only the truth,
right? Meaning
that which is, that this is natural law. It's unchanging. It is the truth. So it's past tense. It's what has already manifested.
Right.
And the truth is that we're living in the state of slavery. Yeah. And the truth is that when a society becomes more moral, we become more free. So using our voice and going public and spreading the message of objective morality, natural law, the belief in a human authority, and government is slavery. This is the one great work, because we're going against the grain that, the programming and conditioning of the majority of people. So it is tough, because we're trying to, and we cannot force people to do this, but what we need to do is we need to inspire. If the majority of people are unconscious to this type of information and are unconscious to their immoral behavior and incorrect thinking, how do we get them to snap out of it, out of the trance, out of the hypnagogic state that they're in? We need to inspire and influence them.
Right. By our actions and what we say. And at least for me, I think that's I'm going about it. I mean, with my actions, and I try to, practice what I talk about for sure. And I definitely learned that you cannot force people. I mean, I think everybody, maybe when they start doing the great work, they try that. Like they just want to be like, I know I was very like, you got to watch this. You got to, look into this. You got to read this. And it doesn't work. You can't force it. It just doesn't work. I've lost friends that way, to be honest. I've actually lost a few friends that won't talk to me now because of what I'm trying to teach, and they don't want to hear it. And I think it's maybe because when I'm a little aggressive from the start. So I definitely understand what you're saying, that you can't force it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'll say this to any listeners that are currently doing the one great work or want to, that again, it starts internally. Mm-hmm. So there is a level of acceptance, of accepting, knowing what you're capable of, and that you can't force anyone to snap out of the trance that they're in. Mm-hmm. So yes, you're right. We have to be the example. We have to be the change, because actions actualize.
Right.
All about our actions. This is what creates freedom or creates slavery, is our actions. And our actions are dictated by our mind and heart.
Right. And that's the problem, I think, too, Will, is that I think a lot of it is that, and something that I found really interesting learning about was the mind. And because I always wondered what got us here. It's definitely, and that was something that kind of probably got me looking into it years ago, was what's going on in people's minds that we're acting this way. Why do they have these beliefs? What is why? And then when you start diving into it and looking into it, it is definitely, you can see that people are definitely, their brains aren't working, there are two sides of the brains, the left and the right, the male and the female, are not working together as a unit. You got people that are very left brain dominant, and you got people that are very right brain dominant. And that was something that I learned about myself doing the shadow work, is that I was somebody I'm very artistic. I'm an artist. I'm a tattoo artist, and I love music. Very right-brained in that aspect. And I was not somebody that really got angry a lot. And it wasn't because I didn't believe that you couldn't get angry or it was a bad thing. I just didn't have that in me, that fire that I have now. Now I've very much come into my sacred anger, believe me. But at the time when I was looking into it, I wasn't like that. So I saw it in firsthand that people are definitely their brains are imbalanced. They're living in one side or the other and not together. Can you kind of touch on that?
Yeah, absolutely. The polarization of humanity.
Right.
Yes, you have the left brain that is majority analytical. This is considered the masculine side. Masculine and feminine meaning the characteristics. So with left brain, this is where we get atheism and scientism, moral relativism, social Darwinism, and which is ultimately based in control. This is master think. And then on the opposite side, we have slave think, which is religion, worthlessness, self-loathing, addiction, following orders, being a willing slave. So you have the active and the passive. Now, the majority of people are polarized to one of these sides.
Right.
So this is where we have control, meaning someone wants to have full control over any external thing in their life. This is the master think. And then on the opposite side, this is where we have victimhood, the slave think. So having these imbalances are detrimental to anyone. And this is also the process of the internal work, is to look at these polarizations and counter that and bring both the left and the right hemisphere of the brain in unison. Right? This is so they're both working, they're balanced, they're working in unison. This is also called the chemical wedding.
Chemical wedding, yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's true when you look around the world now. And when you start looking into this topic, you can really see it in front. When you notice it and you start learning about it, you see very, very quickly that people are living in one form or another of this imbalance. Like you can definitely see, I can spot it with people now that are left brain imbalanced or right brain imbalanced very quickly. Just by talking to them for a few minutes, I'm like, whoa, I know but they're definitely not, they're not living with that wedding. They're not working together. That's for sure.
Yeah, and the social engineers understand this very deeply.
Exactly.
And here are some things that apply to both sides of the polarization. Media, money, and malnutrition, diet. So this is something that I always kind of, when I'm talking with someone, one thing you have full control over is your diet, right? Your diet of what you put in your body and also what you put in your mind. So start there. And once you, cause you know, the human body is like a receiver of consciousness. It's how it has to be in shape. You can look at it as a machine. It's not a machine, but you got to keep it up to par. And as you increase that, then you will be thinking clearly. You'll have more energy and all of that stuff. So this is why the social engineers, they infiltrate every, angle, health, education, media, they get the whole gambit, right? And, but with both polarizations equate to cognitive dissonance, the deliberately ignoring reality. So we have the two, and this is why we have Republicans, Democrats, red,
it's always pairs.
Red, blue in sports, right? The bread and circuses for the public. There's always two teams, and it's like, so it's always this back and forth. This is the dialectic.
Right. And it's the male and the female sides. They're always playing those two against each other.
Absolutely.
And then while they do that, they're keeping us so divided because we're always just fighting amongst each other. And that's the thing. And they got us fighting over the dumbest stuff too. When I started noticing that too, and I'm just like, wow, like they are so experienced at what they're doing to us. And I try to tell people too that it's not just government that these the dark occultists, you want to call them, or master psychologists. People call them different things. I call them master psychologists. They've infected every aspect of our life, like you just said. They're everywhere. They've got into the schooling system, heavy, pharmaceutical for sure.
They've created it.
Exactly.
People need to understand how deep this goes. This
so
goes
evil.
Back eons. They've created all of the systems, money, economics, education, all of this. I mean, the public education system comes from the Prussia era, where the system that they used was to create good workers, and we use that system as well.
Yep.
So
and that's what they want. They don't want people thinking. They don't want people using higher consciousness. They just want to crank you through school, try to memorize everything you can, regurgitate it, and then you'll get good grades. Go get a job. You'll work 9 to 5 and go home, go to sleep, rinse and repeat. That's your life. That's what they want. They do not want people thinking clearly. They don't, definitely not clearly, and they don't want people learning their higher power, like getting to that higher consciousness. They fear that the most. I've said that during this interview. I've said it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the most powerful weapon, is the majority of people coming into alignment, and when one is balanced, that is empowerment. So without self-knowledge, without the understanding of the working and the functions of our quote-unquote machine, our body, our mind, humans cannot be free. We cannot govern ourselves.
Impossible. Yeah, it's impossible.
Yeah, for sure. And we will always remain slaves, for sure. So this is why the occultism, the knowledge of occultism, needs to be de-occulted. It needs to be common sense knowledge. So yeah, it's, but the empowerment that comes within one going public and talking about this information is doing the will of creation. You do have a moral obligation to go out and fight for freedom.
Right. And that's what I think
will it change, or can it change, are two different things, for sure.
Right. Right.
But,
and that's the thing that I find too, that I try to tell people, because I know a lot of people that are looking into this. They're learning about it. They know the knowledge, and they're learning, and they keep learning, but they're not teaching it. And that's what I'm trying to tell them is, once you know this knowledge, it's your duty to go out there and start talking about it and trying to wake people up to this. You can't just keep learning and learning and learning and just sitting in a room and not. You gotta go out there and get your voice out there and start teaching people. And
yeah. That's because those people still have more internal work to do. They are still identifying with the dominance of egotism, right? It's all about my life. Well, I'm not going to see change in my life, so there's no hope for it. It's like I do this for truth, and because it's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do, right?
I don't identify. I am not that which is, or that which dies. You see what I'm saying? So people are still stuck in that fear-based, where they need to see the change when this has been going on for thousands of years. You think it's going to change in 40 years?
Nope.
But yet the individuals need to put in that work for it to change in the future.
Right. And that's so true. And that is exactly what I tell the people that I talk to that know this stuff. I know some people that know it very well, and I'm like, you have to start getting out there, and you can do it. There's so many different ways. Like, I mean, a lot of people think that you probably have to go out and do lectures and that. Well, that might not be your thing. There's so many different ways that you can go out and start doing the great work. You can do it through art. You can do it through what we're doing, interviews. You can do it through presentations, music. There's so many different ways to get that message out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, again, with the internal work is knowing oneself. Know thyself, meaning knowing what your attributes and your qualities are and what you're good at, and then using those attributes, talents, and qualities to express that out into the world with the message of objective morality, true freedom, natural law. So again, it comes down to knowing oneself. And like you said, there's many expressions of that. We are all equal in our rights, but we are not equal in our capabilities, talents, and what we can learn and grow into. But regardless, to evolve, we have to get involved.
Exactly. And I'm so glad that I did, because it's very empowering when you do start fighting for freedom. And that I definitely wish I would have started sooner, but I was still in that fear state where, I was thinking of every excuse not to do it. It's funny how your brain works. Like, when you're living in that fear state, like, you're always trying to, it's like it's talking you out of it, kind of thing. And I tell people, you gotta do the shadow work, which we've said already in this interview is super important. To me, it's the base stone where you gotta start. You gotta start looking at yourself and your beliefs and why you are the way you are. And then once you start learning more and more about natural law and morality and true freedom and all of that good stuff, then, you have to make that decision not to live in fear and go out and spread the message, which is what I'm hoping I'm doing, and I know you're doing, and a lot of other great teachers are doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It comes down to sacrifice. This is someone needs to look in the mirror. We all sacrifice. We sacrifice our energy to do certain things. So, being honest with ourselves that there is going to be sacrifice and make the right decision. Right.
And that's where I think the problem with a lot of people that are in this, like the order followers we were talking about sooner, and that earlier in the interview, like they have to do this until they do this shadow work on themselves. We're not going to see any change, and we have to get them to start doing this shadow work so they see that what they're even doing is wrong. Because I do truly think that some of these order followers, they probably think that they're doing the right thing. I'm sure they do, and in their own way, they think they're doing the right thing. And that's where we have to start, is to start waking people up, to these, what are rights and what are our natural rights and all of that stuff before we're ever going to see a change. That's why I keep telling people that are like, I'm not seeing any change. You're not seeing it because we're not addressing the problem. And the problem is that people aren't doing that internal work, and they're not looking into the right information, in my opinion.
Exactly. Absolutely. We need more people talking about this type of information. And,
right.
and that will create the ripple effect, and that will spread and spread. And, we need diversity, flavors for everyone of inspiration and influence.
Right. And that's true. I mean, everybody does it their own unique way. And that's a great part about it too, is that I'm from watching all the presentations that I've been looking at that you put on, and some other speakers, and I've watched Mark Passio's work. I've listened to Jay Parker, and they all have their own unique story, and they all have their own unique way of doing it. And to me, that's what is really amazing. And I'm glad that you brought that up, Will, because I think people think you have to do this a certain way, and you don't. And that's what I'm trying to let people know too, is that we all can contribute in our own unique way. And if we did it all the same, it would be kind of, it wouldn't be very fun if everybody was just doing the same way. It just, the diversity is what makes it really amazing too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I say, we don't need leaders in this endeavor. We need more artists.
Mm-hmm.
Artists meaning that we are content creators in some form or fashion. And through that content, we will inspire people. And, and to plant those seeds and activate consciousness. Leaders, leaders lead people down their own path. We need to be our own leaders and educate ourselves. Education meaning to lead one out of darkness. Lead yourself out of darkness and be your own leader, and then become an artist. So.
Whatever you're good at. I know somebody that's doing poetry right now, and doing a lot of the poetry they're doing is speaking of natural law and all of the topics that we've been discussing, and it's amazing, like really good stuff. And I'm just
awesome.
Like, wow. So yeah, I mean, each of us have our own unique way. So I think that's great advice. That because I think, as I just said, I think people think they have to do it a certain way or have to do a presentation, because I know some people don't like doing presentations. Some people don't like being on camera. So that's not your way, but we all are unique and have our own way of doing it. And that's what makes it amazing. And I mean, I love the presentation that you did on freedom. Like, definitely I want to give you like the last 5 minutes, or 4 or 5 minutes. Let everyone know about everything that you're doing, where they can find your information, what's coming up in the future. The floor is totally yours. We'll let people know about your work and everything that's going on and where they can find you.
Awesome. Thanks, Rick. Yeah, and then my last comment to tie it into the very beginning of our conversation.
Okay.
We do need, this is where technology comes in, right? So we have all different types of expressions, but how do we get that out to the message?
Technology.
Out to the to the world, right? We use technology. So I've taken How to Be the True Media. This is the Mark Passio tech class. I highly recommend anyone to take on that endeavor. I mean,
I'll be taking it this year.
Excellent. Oh,
I'm
for
so
sure.
excited.
Mark does a great job giving you all the grammar, and then it's up to the person to, put it in practice and get it out there. But yeah, highly valuable.
Right. And technology is so important. That's the one. And as I was saying at the beginning with you, I'm glad that we did bring it full circle, because for me, that was my biggest excuse that I used now that I look back, is that I was always like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know anything about OBS. I don't know anything about computers. And I just had every excuse. And then I finally had to say enough of the excuses. I got everything that I needed, and now I am doing it. So technology is key for sure.
Absolutely. There's two tools for change: technology and philosophy. Philosophy is internal and technology is external. So we need to unify both of those.
For sure.
So, yeah, man.
All right, so let everyone know. We got about let me just check the time for you. Yeah, we got about 3 minutes. So the floor is yours, Will. Let everyone know where they can find you, anything you want them to know.
Cool, awesome. And again, Rick, thank you so much for having me on. I'm extremely grateful. And
you're very welcome.
You're doing a great job on this show, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, people can find me. My main website is naturalfreedomleague.com. And my partner, John Rowland, and I, we do a video podcast every Saturday night. That is 7 p.m. Pacific time, and that's 10 p.m. Eastern time. Highly recommend people come check that out. We make it interactive and answer questions. We also have a wide variety of guests come on, and it's very insightful, really good information. Again, Natural Freedom League, and YouTube, Odyssey, just go to the website. We'll have a whole list of our social media platforms. I'm also on the One Great Work Network under Will Keller. That's a project that Mark Passio put together with, I think it's about 55 content creators in their own creative expression that are spreading the message of true freedom, objective morality, and natural law. So that's a great resource for people to go to. The FUNL Conference, we are definitely going to do another one, and we'll go public with those details. But yeah, freedomundernaturallaw.com. And I'm working on some more presentations and my individual website that's just going to be solely based on a video series that's going to give lay out a full tapestry of shorter videos so people can digest them easy, and kind of the full tapestry of the very beginning to the end of that point, to give people the knowledge, the totality of the knowledge, and the application and practical means of doing the internal work and expressing the one great work.
Oh, that's going to be amazing. I'll definitely be checking it out for sure. And I'm so I want to thank you so much, Will, for coming and talking to me and everyone that's listening, because I'm here for truth, and I'm here for freedom and doing the great work. I'm here. I'm doing my best, and I think that we need to get more people doing it for sure. And I just hope that everyone checks out all your channel and your presentations, because your presentation on freedom, that's how I got introduced to you, was by watching that presentation. It was amazing, and I knew I had to get you on the show to talk about it. So I'm so thankful that you took the time to just come and touch on these subjects. As we said at the beginning, each one of these topics we could talk about for hours, so it's kind of hard to do it in 2 hours. But I'm glad that we got to touch. Excuse me. Glad that we got to touch on that. Oh my God, I just lost my breath. So yeah, I'm glad that we got to touch on that. Yeah. And I want to thank you so much, Will, for just taking the time and being here. You're welcome back anytime.
Oh, thanks, Rick. I really appreciate it, man. Yeah, and thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and I will definitely keep in touch with you and keep doing the great work, Will, and I will have you on again. You're welcome anytime you want. Have a great evening, my friend.
Thanks, Rick. Take care.
Take care, my friend.
Listening to Revolution Radio.